and I'll never back down. In the middle of the ring is where I lay the smack down. Against all odds, I will always prevail. The way you step to me is like hell in a cell.
Greetings and salutations, this is Christopher Daniels. I'm talking to my main man Delzinski right now. Any video game show, any video game channel, any YouTube channel called Vintage Shizzle is indeed hashtag Daniels approved.
Yo, alright guys, Delzinski here. It's another We Talk weekend, but it's a We Talk Sunday, and the reason being is because we're covering the Hall of Fame. Yes, that was last night. It was a very long show, and myself and the Professor, who I'm going to introduce to you now. Weeds, how are you doing, mate?
I'm awake. I don't know if I'm going to be for WrestleMania, but I'm alive and kicking this morning on about 2 hours sleep. I know you haven't fared much better.
No, it's been a long night. Let's put it that way. The Hall of Fame, wow, it overran just a tad. But
no way.
I mean, as these things usually do, it went long. It was very interesting. It was very good, and we're going to cover that in today's show. And hopefully, Weeds will not fall asleep.
I'm here.
So, in addition to talking about the Hall of Fame, and if you guys watched it as well, interact by the comment section below. We're going to talk a little bit about NXT, and we're going to talk about some changes to the WrestleMania card, things being moved up and down, left and right, and all sorts of jiggery.
Removed from the show altogether.
Yes, and then we're going to talk about one main topic, which obviously was huge this week. The Beast, Brock Lesnar, has signed a new contract with the WWE. So, before we get into all of the Hall of Fame, all 4 hours worth of it, let's talk about, quickly, NXT. Did you watch NXT, and did you see the big match, which was Kevin Owens and Finn Balor? A highly anticipated match. I've talked about it a little bit on my channel. I was very excited to see it, and it happened. Came quite soon, really, because I thought it was going to be a little bit later on when these two guys had been around a bit longer. But it came, and I thought it was a really good match, and it was kind of different to what I was expecting. Wasn't really a spot fest. What did you think, Weeds?
No, I really liked it. It's, like you said, it wasn't everyone getting their stuff in. Necessarily, although they did eventually, but they got it in different ways, didn't they? So it wasn't necessarily, fast paced straight off the bat, which I kind of liked. It was very much about the wrestling, very much about the not being a lot of difference in the kind of the ability of both, and the little things counted, and that was the story they told, and that's what I really liked about the match, that it was a potential high spot that ultimately cost Finn Balor, wasn't it?
It was, and that's the bit that I liked about it. I liked the whole working of the body parts, which we don't see enough of. First of all, it was the reverse chin lock, wearing down Balor, and I liked the commentary team emphasising all the time about his resiliency and his ability to come back, and then obviously Kevin Owens focused and pretty much took out the leg after Balor made that mistake, and that was really the icing on the cake of how things were going to go down. And I thought it was really good. I'd like to point out that some people are going to criticise the match because it wasn't a spot fest, but isn't this what we always wanted?
It's what we want anyway.
Exactly. It was a good, solid wrestling match. So, with that being the case, where do you think Kevin Owens and Finn Balor are going to go?
Well, it sounds like Owens is on the shelf at the moment. Having a little bit of his knee cleaned up, isn't he? What was interesting for me with what the commentary team were doing was the thing with the two personalities of Balor. I really like that, and it kind of feels that, if he's going to move up to the main brand, and I'm kind of thinking they're fast tracking him more than anything else to get on there as soon as possible. It's whether the war paint, the demon side of him is going to be the more prominent side. Because I think once he's on that main brand, it will probably, would you reckon it would come out more?
Yeah, there was a huge amount of referencing to the demon, and I think that's the first time we've really heard the whole split between the two massively. Like, it's almost been a showcase piece, but now they're referencing as this massive alter ego. And if he goes up to the main roster, yeah, I can see him using it more, but I think they will retain it as a special attraction. But it's It's interesting because he has got another look, which has been seen. Don't want to spoil anything, but he's got another version of his face paint coming our way very soon. So, I mean, I reckon he's gonna have different alter egos. I don't think he'll just have the demon, and it will depend on circumstances which one he brings out. I reckon that's how to do it.
I think that's what's quite cool is that you've got a really quite original idea. I'm sure it's been done in WWE to some degree with someone else a long, long time ago. But having like this differential where you've got all these alter egos, I suppose it's the first time since Foley, isn't it? That they really cracked on with something like this. So I'm really liking it. The only question I kind of have, and I have for you today, is if he's going into an NXT title match, why does he not want to be the demon?
He didn't think he needed the demon, apparently. I found that a little bit strange. I've got to admit, if you're going to go into the biggest match, you're going to want to be your most aggressive. So I thought he should have probably gone in with the demon. But I also question why this match wasn't on an arrival or a rival show. Why was this just on a standard NXT week? It just I didn't really understand why they went down that route. I thought this was probably the match that everybody had been waiting for, and it had that big fight feel. I kind of think maybe because of Owens' injury it wasn't going to happen, but I really felt that they could have slotted this into WrestleMania somehow.
It felt like it was probably going to be, maybe, if they wanted to advertise the NXT brand more than they already do. I know they've taken it out on tour recently as well. So, yeah, it probably felt like bad timing maybe for Owens to get injured. But again, one thing you can't fault in this matchup was the build to it and the different aspects they got involved, from Alex Riley to the demon turning up left, right and centre. You know, it was a good build, wasn't it?
It was. I don't think we're done with Alex Riley yet. I think he's still got a major part to play with Owens. I can't see them spending so much time building that just to have him disappear. I will mention as well that obviously Sami Zayn's still got to come back into the fray soon, so lots going on in NXT.
Yeah, he's going to want some revenge, isn't he? But it's good. It's all positive still for NXT. And we've obviously had our NXT winner moving on to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, haven't we, as well?
Because we got that right, didn't we?
I got it spot on, so I'm going to have to change my pick shortly.
Hideo Itami was victorious I think it was at WrestleMania Access. It was an event that they held, and he is the one to move forward. I think we went with, and so did Smack Talks, we went with Adrian Neville.
I went with Finn.
Oh, you did go with Finn, didn't you? Oh, yes, you did. Big mistake.
So I'm going to do a complete 180, and now I'm going to pick Ryback to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Yeah, I think Hideo's got a good chance in it. I think they will elevate him. And do you know what I thought was nice about this was just the fact that he was the one that was getting lost a little bit in the mix out of the three that came over, Owens, Balor and Itami. And I think this was a good way to recapture him as a major piece as well of the NXT roster to get him to go forward. But how he's going to get dumped out will be interesting. If they want to do something with him, they're going to have to make that worthwhile.
I'll tell you what, though, with that feud he's had with Tyler Breeze, I'm absolutely loving that. You know, they've struck a little bit of gold there, but I suppose NXT can't do anything wrong at the moment, can it? Do you think WrestleMania, in front of those 73,000 fans, is where the GTS comes out? Because there's been rumours that it's been turning up on house shows here or there, but do you see it getting hit in that kind of environment?
I hope he does it. I think they've teased it long enough now. So if he's going to hit it, though, the question is who does he hit it on to make that impact?
Well, Ryback. just to completely finish off the CM Punk references.
I think it would be the best time to do it. If you're going to do it on the biggest stage. Again, I will say it's not a big it's not a middle finger to CM Punk for him to do it. He is the originator of the move.
Well, it depends who's telling the story, doesn't it?
I'm telling the story.
We know that. We know that, but there's probably quite a lot of people out there who don't.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it will depend how he utilises it, but hopefully we get to see it. I mean, the crowd just goes mental. I'm hoping that WrestleMania crowd will be the same because the NXT audience have really got behind the teasing of the GTS. I hope he doesn't call it that.
No, don't trust JBL. You never know what it will get called to. Yeah.
My God, he's hit it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And speaking of that match, is it on the pre-show now?
They've shifted that to the pre-show, and I can't remember if we discussed last week about the tag team match as well, because that's on there. So what you're essentially getting now, and I'm not moaning one bit about this, is you're getting like a 6-hour WrestleMania. Can't be a bad thing, can it? Well, it's only just longer than the Hall of Fame.
It's a huge pre-show. It's massively long.
And Renee Young's going to be on it. So
Renee Young is awesome.
Aren't you?
Yeah. I watched an interview with her the other day when she did it for The Sun, I think it was, or it was someone in the UK. And
do you even remember who she was interviewing?
No, she was being interviewed.
Ah,
so that's why I watched it. Obviously.
No wonder you were click, 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 click.
It's great stuff. proper decent. Anyway, let's move on.
Delzinski, come back.
Let's move on. A bit of a weird changing around, shuffling here, there, and everywhere with the card, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Although probably should have that battle royal on the main card, to be honest.
Well, it's filled up enough pre-show time on Raw and SmackDown that it probably warranted being on there. But it does make you wonder what some of these entrances are going to be like for the main show. Because if they've got 4 hours now to get in 7 matches. So some of those entrances, Triple H's is going to be spectacular.
They've got to get the timing right, because some have got to be done in the dark, haven't they?
Well, majority of them are going to be done in the dark, aren't they? So
that's probably why they're spreading it out.
But of course we've got the other match added, which was the tag team match, the Fatal 4-Way. So you got a prediction for this one at all? So it's Cesaro and Kid, the New Day, which they
ain't gonna win.
Well, you say that. So that would be a damp squib, wouldn't it, to start the night off? I was so excited when New Day weren't going to be on the card. So Tyson, Kid and Cesaro, the New Day, Los Matadors, and the Usos.
Kid and Cesaro are going to retain easy.
Easy? Oh, I don't know.
If those Matadors win, there's pants.
I'm going to go... Yeah, I'm not really going to go New Day. I'm going to go Usos.
We don't need that again. Anyway, final piece of topic before we talk about the Hall of Fame. It's the biggest news of the week, to be honest. Brock Lesnar re-signing. Is it a game changer going into WrestleMania? Are we going to see a different outcome with the fact that the Beast has now signed a multi-year deal? Vince McMahon getting out the old checkbook, doing the job and retaining the Beast. So what do you think? Are we going to potentially see Lesnar win? Is this completely reshuffled the deck?
It's made it a hell of a lot more interesting, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
It's kind of what is going to happen in that main event match, isn't it, now? So it's gone from, I think a lot of people are expecting the rise of Reigns to we're not really quite sure what to expect now. So I suppose that comes with its pitfalls. You've got a crowd that are maybe a little bit more expecting Lesnar to retain now. But for us as fans, that opens it up to a lot of things, from screw jobs to heel turns to, Lesnar dominating someone else. It's going to be an interesting main event. And I suppose that's a good thing, because we were running the risk, potentially, not that I advocate this, I am an advocate too, of the main event there being not a lot of reaction. And I think this gives it that much injected final piece in the arm. Because I'll tell you what, Raw, the ending, didn't do an awful lot for it this week, did it?
Oh, what are you talking about? The pass the parcel, where they're trying to give me the belt, give me the belt.
I think it's your Twitter headline that probably speaks absolute volumes about this, considering I think you've got Lesnar with a teddy bear under his arm at the moment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful picture. I don't know who made that, but I had to have that as my Twitter header. Check it out at Delzinski on Twitter. Nice cheap plug for me. But yeah, it was bad, wasn't it? I mean, I'll be honest with you, quickly touching on that what went down. I just personally thought if he'd hit him with an F5, that segment was good. That was good to go. That was the best way to end it. But and somebody else said, I think, this guy, Brock Lesnar, the Beast, who takes no jack shit from anybody, yet he'd rather, wrestle with the belt than, and he let him take the belt off him for starters. I mean, would Lesnar ever do that?
I didn't mind that. I didn't mind the snatch. The snatch of the belt looked really good, but the reaction to it was not.
Yeah, you don't get away with it, do you?
No. He should have at least tried to hit something on him, and even have Reigns reverse it. I think we said the importance of them having some physical contact before the actual match, particularly. There has been a real lack of physical contact between a majority of the people on there, hasn't there? From Undertaker and Wyatt to Sting and Triple H, not an awful lot. More threats than anything else with baseball bats and sledgehammers. And it kind of felt that you needed this to ignite a little bit. The only other thing I would say is, Heyman had just done another stellar job, hadn't he? And then kind of shuffled out of the ring. And it just felt like, I don't know what you thought about this, that the tug of war over the title was more a photo opportunity. So it could turn up as a still on, newsstands, on TV shows, on websites. And that's what it felt like they were doing. So I understood why they were doing it, but it didn't really work for me. But I think everyone, that picture's been everywhere this week of the tug of war.
I thought it was a shame that it wasn't trending worldwide, title tugging. Disappointed that they didn't get that.
That's got so many connotations.
Yeah, so it's a shame that didn't happen. I also want to know, how did they actually come unglued?
How do you leave the ring? Exactly. This is it. I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking this.
They both got the ramp together, still pulling it. I don't know. I don't know. Leave the arena, still tugging away. Sounds dodge.
Hashtag title tugging.
Title tugging. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so does it change your prediction? You were going with, who were you going with last week?
I was Reigns. I
was Lesnar.
The only other way I can see this potentially happening is the Reigns gets really close, and if they're going to do it that way, we know that he's kind of the next guy. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to boo that out of any arena. He might not be ready. As we've said, he hasn't had an awful lot of gold on him before, other than the tag team titles. He's kind of moved up very, very quickly. So what would maybe be a nice story is him getting awfully close, but not quite there. Has to go back, find something else, and then maybe around SummerSlam Survivor Series, he gets another chance. I wouldn't even give him the chance straight away. Other than that, but that's how I would do it if he wasn't going to win tonight, but I still think he's going to win.
I went with Lesnar last week. I do kind of think that possibly Reigns will take it, but I think that we could see that heel turn and Lesnar become full-blown face after WrestleMania, with Heyman aligning himself with Reigns. I can see that happening, to be honest, because I do think that Lesnar will be the face going into this match tonight. So
we could have that turn during it, which would be quite interesting. The only other thing I was going to say is the only difference, I suppose, we know Reigns is moving on that Cena path to somewhat, especially with the Superman punch. But it's not too early in that, where we've had the reluctance to turn Cena heel so much because they quote merchandise and how much he sells more than anything else. But you can still do that with Reigns, because he's not at that point where he's making that amount of merchandise sales or putting those amount of bums on seats. So you can still do the heel turn to get him over more. So they could potentially do it.
To be honest, if they do it early and they do it now, I reckon they'll probably sell more shirts, because you'll get that contingency of fan that will like the heel turn. So all those haters that don't like him at the moment will probably end up siding with him.
It's exactly what they had to do for The Rock years and years ago. The only other thing I would say, and we didn't really talk about this last week on the prediction show with Smack Talks. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's on the channel and on your website, isn't it? Delzinski.com.
Oh, another plug. Nice.
Another cheap plug. We're worse than Foley this week. I've completely forgot what I was talking about. We never really talked about the run of the show itself, which match is going to fit in where. Do you see the title match being the last match of the evening?
Yeah, it's got to be, innit?
Well, you say that. It hasn't always previously, has it?
I think it has to be this year. Too much emphasis on it not to be.
So I think for that reason, I'm expecting something big to happen, because you need that talking point that's going to happen the next night on Raw.
CM Punk's coming back.
Yeah, you wish.
Nah, I think something will happen. I think it would definitely be the main event on the night. It's got to be. It's got to be.
We shall see. We're not that far away now, are we?
Nope. Counting down the hours to WrestleMania 31. Now, Hall of Fame. Yes, it was very, very interesting night. It was very, very good night. I always like watching the Hall of Fame. Bit different to the standard WWE style of shows. A lot more personal than all the other shows that we get during the year. And a lot more realism, I think is the best word to sum it up. So what we're going to do with the Hall of Fame is we're not going to touch on every single induction, but we're going to pick out the bits that we found very interesting. I mean, yes, they all absolutely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but we're going to pick up on some of the key points that we think were important from the Hall of Fame. So first of all, I wanted to talk about Rikishi and his induction. I thought, yes, great. The Usos doing a great job on the mic. What did you think of that?
Let them talk. If they're going to talk like that with that much passion about their father, and they were funny at times, you know, and they connected well. Let them talk.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get to see that vocabulary that they've got. It's hidden, and it gives another dimension to their character and their gimmick. So I don't really know why the WWE has been a bit reluctant to get them on the microphone, but they did a stellar job to put Rikishi in the Hall of Fame. And Rikishi, very humble. He was probably the most. Actually, probably say the Bushwhackers as well, which we'll touch on later. Both of them were very interactive with the crowd, which was great. It got everybody going. It was a good way to start the Hall of Fame. But interestingly, and obviously one of the big topics coming out of his induction was that there was no mention of Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexy Bryan Christopher. And, he did do the Too Cool dance, but he did it with the Usos. Could it not have been achieved to have had Scotty 2 Hotty and Bryan Christopher there? And I believe they're on good terms with the WWE, so I thought that could have been done.
Well, they've been on recently. I can't remember how, but quite recently, in the last couple of years or so. So, like you say, it was a bit odd that they weren't there. And I think you made the point to me just before we came on, but without those two actually pulling Rikishi into that kind of the Too Cool gimmick, it was them that started it with him, actually bringing him in. So it was a bit of a slap in the face not to have them on there. But equally, like you say, I think it was a good way to kick off the Hall of Fame show. It did the annual opening speech problem of overrunning by bloody miles.
Yes.
But no, I mean, I was a bit suspect about some of the people going in. I wasn't overly looking forward to the Hall of Fame outside of the Macho Man. Oh, I've turned into you. Normally call him Macho. The Macho Man induction. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, the whole night. You know, it was really good. I think the main thing for me is you got such a variety of people over, and that was great. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I think maybe it would have been easier to go down the road that Nash took later on and said, look, I'm not going to stand up here and thank everyone because I'm going to miss people. Maybe he said that because of what happened with Rikishi.
He checked his Twitter feed before, I reckon.
It was blowing up, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Scotty 2 Hotty wasn't too happy with it, which kind of controversial on his big night, Rikishi. So, yeah, like you said, one good thing to point out about the Hall of Fame was it was a huge variety. I mean, that's what made it entertaining, I think, because you had somebody like a big character like Rikishi, and then we'll quickly touch on Larry Zbyszko. Larry Zbyszko didn't want to touch on himself very quickly. I think it was his... Sorry. He's a living legend. He can do what he likes. I think it was Larry Zbyszko's speech that ran way over because basically... Let's just do a comparison. Last year, we had Mr. T talking about his mother. And this year... we had Larry Zbyszko talking about Bruno Sammartino. So it was almost like Bruno Sammartino is Larry Zbyszko's mother.
Well, I was going to say, whatever Vince and Triple H repaired with Bruno Sammartino a few years ago, it worked well because they've got him presenting awards now, haven't they? I get what you're saying. I'm a big Larry Zbyszko fan from back when I first started watching WCW, especially when he was in the tag team with Arn Anderson. So it was good for me to see someone like him get recognition. I think he was so humble in terms of what I think Bruno Sammartino did for him. That was, it's the equivalent of Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6 doing sort of what he did for the Warrior back then. Like, Zbyszko was nothing before he had that match with Sammartino, and it gave him a living. So I suppose he was very, very humble, maybe a little bit too humble, like you've said. But you can get he's a very thankful guy. He seems very genuine, wouldn't you say? And I've always liked Larry Zbyszko. I liked it when he stood up to Scott Hall and punched him in the face, all that kind of stuff. It's brilliant. I liked him as the voice of reason on the commentary team for the WCW. A lot of the time, at times he would be quite honest and brutal and say, I don't even get what's going on here, guys. So yeah, Larry Zbyszko, absolute, like he's always been called, absolute living legend, and another worthy inductee. But yes, he does like Bruno Sammartino. The
only thing I'd add just to that, because I think you summed it up perfectly, was those bushes, because basically he told his story about Bruno Sammartino, how he met him and he pestered him, and he took a risk, took a chance, and that risk and chance was that one day when Bruno Sammartino was standing outside his house, he crawled through the bushes and approached Bruno Sammartino, and then basically from there, Bruno Sammartino took him under his wing and went forward with it. All I'm saying is, if someone could tell me where those bushes are and where Bruno Sammartino lives, I will quite happily crawl through them and I can become the next Larry Zbyszko.
And I don't know about you, but I love all those old wrestling stories when they tell stuff like that. I think that's more often than not why I tune into so many of the wrestlers' podcasts, because it's just great hearing all these little intricacies of how things happened and what was their thinking behind it. And the Bush story is another good one, isn't it?
I know, it was that good. He told it about 3 times. Larry Zbyszko, living legend. Still living today, still living legend. And next, we'll touch on this one just because it was probably the most controversial, or maybe the most controversial. Obviously, we had Randy Savage going in. That's for different reasons. Alundra Blayze, a.k.a. Medusa. When she first came out, I did think to myself, she was quite sarcastic about everything. It was almost like she didn't really want to be acknowledged as Alundra Blayze. She wanted to be acknowledged as Medusa. And I think we all know that WWE are kind of always negotiating what name people go in with. So at first I thought, this is going to be a bit dodgy. But as it went on, to be honest, it was another good, solid speech. Very entertaining, actually, because she referenced herself as a Paul Heyman girl, the very first, and being a member of the Dangerous Alliance. She also brought out a trash can, and she pulled out a few things. She pulled out Bryan panties from the trash can and said, she didn't agree with that in women's wrestling.
I see you remembered this speech in specific detail.
Yes, I have. She also pulled out JR's barbecue sauce. She said she didn't understand that either, but she likes JR and his barbecue sauce. Very nice. And then she found the WWE or WW beep. Can't say it because
can't say that
every time. Championship from the bin, and obviously that's the most controversial moment where she took out or dumped the WWE title in the bin on a WCW show on Monday Nitro, and she took it out, and it was almost like having closure of that whole story, because she said that she had come to terms with it, but she never thought that the fans had come to terms with it. And basically, it's a pivotal part because it did actually spark the Monday Night Wars. It was the first shot that was fired. So I thought it was a great speech. You got closure. And she mentioned one thing that I'm going to keep mentioning during this talk. Rick Rude. She said that Rick Rude was a major part of her being in the wrestling industry. And Rick Rude needs to go in the Hall of Fame. Enough said.
Not the only time he was mentioned during the evening, was it? Alundra Blayze, aka Medusa, Absolute pioneer, like you've just said. I think you've summed it up pretty well already. Absolute innovator of the women's division, somewhat, not necessarily in wrestling, but in the mainstream kind of the WWE, WCW markets. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't ever seen those Monday Night War episodes on the network, there's a lot of cheap plugs today. Go and have a look at them, because it's just, she is she is, like Delzinski said, the reason that these shots were fired, why the war was essentially, which had been a Cold War up until then, ignited into what became a nuclear war to some degree. Again, yeah, I liked her. She's still looking fantastic for how long she's been in the business now.
Drives a monster truck.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't mess with her. Yeah.
Jesus.
Back in the day, she used to turn up with them at WCW. But wouldn't mess with her, would I? Would you?
You wouldn't. Nor would I. I think we can both agree on that, to be honest.
But no, another, and that's, we were talking about it being varied, and this was probably a little bit long in coming. Again, not
she said that. She said, why is it taking you so long? That's why I thought this speech was going to be a bit, tongue in cheek sort of thing. So when someone mentions that, it's almost like saying, but to be honest, it's very true.
Yeah, I mean, because they only ever seem to put one diva in a year, don't they? Or sorry, women's wrestler in a year. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of fuss made about Macho Man not going in years and years ago, and I can see she had a point. And I suppose that's where their itinerary of only putting in one women's wrestler a year kind of backfires, because it shouldn't have to fit a quota or anything like that, and she should have been in a long time ago.
Exactly. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot on here is, the amount of time that people get left before they're put in. And sometimes it's when it should have been done a lot earlier. And we've had examples of that with Savage. We've had examples of that even with Warrior, even though he just made it in. They could have done that a long time ago. So, and obviously Rick Rude is another one that I said I keep mentioning it, but he's got to go in the Hall of Fame, and whatever circumstances are hiding behind that, Alundra Blayze obviously wants him in, and also we'll mention Kevin Nash mentioned him as well. So yeah, I thought it was a good speech. I actually thought at the time during the evening that was the best speech so far, but it was topped. Next, we're going to quickly touch on a very somber note, but it was probably one of the highlights of the evening. The Warrior Award. First of all, it's a very good and deserving award. I think it's fantastic that WWE actually decided to build this into the Hall of Fame program. Unbelievable, really, that it was only a year ago that the Warrior was actually standing on that Hall of Fame stage, and now he's no longer with us. But Dana Warrior talked about the award. It's almost recognition for special people who have done a lot, and they actually had it was Connor the Crusher, wasn't it?
Connor the Crusher McCallick.
Yes,
I think his name. Yeah, I mean that boy himself is amazing to go through what he has actually gone through in such a young age, and
I know.
I think you said with his father being able to speak about it, being diagnosed at 3. And then knowing that your time is limited, and I think just to come back to WWE, this is where they go unnoticed a lot of the time. I mean, you get the odd John Cena with the Make-A-Wish, and obviously people take the piss out of that time because he's the only one that ever gets promoted. But I don't think they need to promote this stuff as much as they do. And I'll rephrase: it's more important that they do it. They don't need to promote it, is what I should have said. And stuff like this, when you see Stephanie being as upset as she was, and what this little boy meant to her, meant to Hunter, meant to the whole of the WWE, and Daniel Bryan, just beams when he talks about Connor. So I think it's amazing that they do stuff like that. I think it's great that it's called the Warrior Award, because it kind of embodies everything that little boy was. So no, I think it's an absolutely brilliant thing that WWE do, and as I said, they don't want to flout it, and I can understand completely why they don't want to flout what they do for charity, because I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg of what that company does. So yeah, they get a lot of flack, especially from guys like me and Delzinski when it terms some of their creative booking, in terms of what they do for the community, what they put back in. I would dare you to find another company on this planet that does as much as they do.
Yeah, I think you summed it all up very well. I mean, you just can't fault what they do. And for this little boy, they truly went above and beyond. They don't have to do it, and they choose to do it. And I thought it was amazing. Daniel Bryan's speech, like you said, was so humble, and some of the stories he told about Connor, saying to Triple H, I think it was, this was probably my favourite bit of the speech from Daniel Bryan's side, was Triple H asked him to hit him, and he was like, oh no, but it wasn't because he didn't want to hit him. It was just on the basis that if Connor did hit him, Triple H would never be getting back up. So I thought it was awesome. And as for Connor's father, I mean, I have no idea how he managed to do that speech. I couldn't have done that. It was truly inspirational. And I tweeted this last night. I said that the true champion of the Hall of Fame was indeed Connor and his father at last night's ceremony. I think that they summed it up beautifully. They were the main piece, because that is the realism that I'm talking about.
No, definitely, completely echo everything you said. And again, from the award itself with Dana Warrior, very brave lady to go up there in front of that many people, and do what she did. So no, I really love that the WWE are incorporating such a. It's probably just one of those things they've never thought about before incorporating to the Hall of Fame, but it goes so well.
It does. So yes, moving on. We're going to now move on to something which is probably a lot lighter, and I think the organisation of the ceremony did this very well to move from that note onto something that's a little bit more light-hearted, and this was the Bushwhackers. To be honest, when I first heard that they were going in, I was thinking, really? You could have chose a lot of other people, but got to admit, and they do thoroughly deserve their place in the Hall of Fame, Luke and Butch, but what a cracking speech. I mean, it was just awesome. It was like a stand-up show. It is the speech I will go back and watch again and again. This is my new Bobby the Brain Heenan speech from the Hall of Fame. Oh my God, that Butch. Booch and Looch. That Butch is a nutter, isn't he? I've got to say, two of my favourite lines from his speech. Right, first was it was along the lines of we were doing hardcore before there bloody was hardcore. I'm not what the battering ram. I don't know. I mean, but I thought that was funny. But this was the top one when he asked Hacksaw Jim Duggan to stand up. And and he said, oh, over the years there was plenty of woes and plenty of hoes, and I just thought, oh, brilliant stuff. And there was a lot of in there as well. It was really good. It got everybody back up. The energy was there, and it was just good. And they obviously had the old face licking at the end as well. They didn't let anyone go untouched. If you wanted to even get out there straight face like Bret the Hitman Hart, you had no chance. I love that they incorporated so many. They were again just so humble but so funny. And just I think they told the story, that Royal Rumble story. If you haven't heard them, go and either find it somewhere, watch this speech. And it's just a brilliant story about how payoffs work in the WWF back then. I've said it. Sorry, bleep me out. I have to beat that now. And you know how the payoffs were technically the same for not necessarily doing the same amount of work, and this nearly brought a great ruckus to a very, very funny. Very, very like Delzinski said, I was a bit mumming and ahhing until I did my proper research. The professor was not doing his job properly. Went out and found out all about the sheep herders, because obviously my only exposure previously had been the Bushwhackers, but thoroughly deserved induction to the Hall of Fame. Oh my God, they were funny. I think it was a perfect speech because time-wise, I mean, they knew that time was against them because of others overrunning, but they got it in good time. They didn't keep repeating themselves, and they just told these great stories.
You're bloody right, Delzinski.
And it was things like that. It was you bloody this pissing around, and it was just like they were just having a chat, really, a good old chat, and that's what I liked about it. It just felt good. It was really upbeat, and I think everybody loved it.
The fact that they made Rowdy Roddy Piper look normal, I think speaks volumes.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I was doing the old bushwhacker walk.
Oh, it was brilliant, and I can't wait. I'm hoping when they come out, because they normally get them out on the stage, don't they? WrestleMania. I'm hoping they do something else. I hope they do the battering ram. You might have to do it with a crutch, but
I hope they do it to Michael Cole.
Yeah, I hope lots of things happen to Michael Cole, but that's another We Talk episode.
Yeah, the Bushwhackers. If you haven't checked it out, go check out their speech. Great stuff. Then we'll quickly brush over these ones. Not because they're any cheaper or any less, but number one of the speeches just was, if you blinked, you missed it. Tatsumi. I mean, yeah, I literally.
I must have missed that one.
Well, it was. I mean, I know time was against them, but that was one of the quickest speeches I've ever seen. So
that was like one of the Bushwhackers in the Royal Rumble.
It was. So, I mean, yeah, that was that. He's in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations. And we're almost doing the same thing here. And then, obviously, I've almost brushed over the biggest one, I think. I will mention as well, the structure was a little bit odd. I thought it. I don't think you did, Weeds, but Macho Man. Let's just talk about it. Macho Man, Hall of Fame. All the controversy was around the Macho Man. And he's finally in the Hall of Fame. I'm so happy for the Macho Man. I'm happy that Lanny Poffo was there. But to me, felt a little bit rushed. And also, I did question it. I question, Lanny Poffo has for months said that he wasn't going to be at the Hall of Fame. And he was absolutely against Hogan inducting Randy into the Hall of Fame. However, he was there, and I think you're going to probably say what I think you're going to say about burying the hatchet, but it was strange. It took me by surprise. I never saw it coming, to be honest.
I think you just alluded to exactly what I'm going to say. And I think the most important thing from these Hall of Fames in the last couple of years is that where there have been these, really deep loathing and hatred of either Vince McMahon or whatever the system is that the Hall of Fame should be a great occasion where you are able to bury hatchets, that these things are left alone. And when they said Macho Man was going in, they might not even have told Lanny Poffo. The fact that he was there, I think, was brilliant. We've said on this previously that he was the right person to induct him. He could have been a lot more controversial than he was. I didn't think he was overly controversial at all. I think he just spoke from the heart a lot of the time. I love the fact that we got to see the genius.
The genius.
That's always great. I thought Hogan inducting him, there was a couple of times when he was telling stories where you're like, are you really going to bury him now? And then he pulled it back round. So I don't know if he was having a bit of a game with some of us fans.
Does a great impression of the Macho Man.
He dig it. So yeah, there was a couple of times where he did say, that Randy would call him at like 3 a.m. and he would be a bit, high maintenance. But then he pulled it around and it said that it made him a better person, a better wrestler. It made him have more of an appreciation for what they were doing as an art form rather than purely as a business. So I thought that was a really nice thing to say about Macho Man. It was great that they had Steamboat in the audience.
Yes.
And great that, like we said, that you can actually put these things to rest like the Warrior previously did. Macho Man never got that opportunity, like Lanny Poffo said. But I would like to think that, what Hogan said on previous podcasts about them burying the hatchet was true. And I think, life is far more important. And if anyone, little Connor completely shows that there's no time for petty grudges and all the bullshit that comes along with wrestling sometimes, because life is too short.
Oh, yes. Perfect sentiment. I'd say in an ideal world, it would have been Steamboat inducting him and then Lanny. but that's just me being me. So
we never please you, can we?
No, I think Steamboat should have done the job. But as you said, fantastic. Lanny Poffo's poems are just gold. They're just brilliant.
I think
wow.
I think one, it was to get Hogan on. Hogan did spend a lot of time with him, whether for bad or good or whatever it was. And I think mainly he's probably a lot better at talking than Steamboat is.
Yes, I would definitely second that. So Macho Man in, and great to finally see him in. I think it's a bit late. It should have definitely been happened earlier, but we are really happy here at We Talk that he's finally gone in. So we're going to give him a big, ooh, yeah, dig it. It was great to see. And I literally, that is what was all over Twitter last night.
And the only thing I'd add is that I think some people, maybe yourself included, were wondering why he didn't go on last. And I think in an ideal world, we would have had, like Warrior had his moment before, unfortunately, Macho Man passed away. That would have been a lot better to do it that way. And I think it's just more important that you need to go out on a positive image on these kind of award shows. And I think that's what they tried to do with the click at the end. So I think if he was alive and well, we would have seen Macho Man go in last.
Good point. And that kind of quickly brings me on to Arnie. Do you want to mention him at all? It's still
Sure did.
Kind of controversial positioning again. Where he was on this card was a bit strange. Triple H's induction, Triple H did a great job. Get to the chopper and all that stuff. It was all in there. It was all there for everybody to hear. But again, we always question these inductions. I mean, Donald Trump and all that, Mr. T and all that. Jiggery.
There doesn't need to be one every year. We don't need a celebrity or Hollywood induction. I think they do it to bring mainstream, and nothing more mainstream than someone who's coming out in another Terminator film is going to do that. Obviously, I like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm a big fan of his films. I've been watching them forever. But there's a time and a place, and I'm not necessarily sure that the Hall of Fame is that time and place for something like that.
I guess the big question is to you, Weeds, coming out of Arnie, is who is your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah, thanks. I'm not quite sure how to respond to that. So yeah, I think it's mainly there for the celebrity side, isn't it?
It is. So let's talk about the last one on the list, the final inductee of the class of 2015. Kevin Nash, Big Kev Oz, maybe we should say. I thought it was fantastic that he actually got the pictures of Oz on the big screen. Oh, brilliant stuff. And I never knew that Dusty Rhodes came up with this gimmick. Congratulations, Dusty. Named and shamed on the biggest night of the year.
Another cracker from Dusty, wasn't it? I like that we get to see this side of Kevin Nash, because you don't always see this side, and they were very much speaking about him from a business perspective a lot of the time, and how he was in it to make money, and the fact that he can rip the piss out of himself is brilliant. What did you make of Shawn Michaels at the beginning? I thought he was brilliant, where he just literally tore up his speech.
Yeah, sound like he wasn't. It was kind of typical old school Shawn, really. So it's perfect. he wasn't happy that people had overrun, and decided to voice his opinion about it.
He did. I think he said, "What was it? A pro wrestler inducting a pro wrestler. Fancy that." No, he was at his show-stopping best. So he's not going to get his WrestleMania moment this year, or ever again. As I think there was a few vocal fans throughout this, and I think Chris Jericho even tweeted throughout basically "shut the fuck up," when with some of the chants. Obviously, it's another payday for WWE getting that amount of fans into that building for the night. But I think they said one more match to Michaels, and he just went a pipe down, and that was the end of that. So. No, he was being naughty. He did reference Vince. He said Vince doesn't like to be talked about, so I'm going to talk about him. I'm going to mention WWF because they don't want me to talk about that either. They want me to stick to a script, so I'm going to rip that up. And I thought it was brilliant that he spoke from the heart. Again, a lot of good stories came out from how Kevin Nash actually ended up in the WWF/E by basically saying he wanted to go back to bouncing at a strip club, getting his release from WCW, and then using their own property, their own office property, to fax his termination notice to the WWE. It was brilliant.
I thought it was good to see, like you say, this side of Kevin Nash. It was pretty humble as well, which some people don't always think of Big Kev. I like the way he said that he tried to keep his wife out of the business, so it's like you get that private life side that he didn't really want to get too involved, which kind of been dragged up a little bit recently, which is good. And I thought he came across. It was a very different Kevin Nash. It's not, like you said, the whole money-driven Kevin Nash. He even played on it a little bit. He did say when he first came into it, it was for the money. But ultimately, yeah, perfect to have Shawn Michaels inducting him. And I'd say after Mick Foley tried to troll all of us by saying that he was inducting him, which made no sense whatsoever, it was great to see Shawn do it. Nash's speech was just really good. I loved the fact that he mentioned Oz. I love the fact that he again alluded to Rick Rude. But it was nice as well to, again, I think we all expected it to get that click moment. We got it. And
it's the annual Hall of Fame moment now, isn't it?
And I've got to say, the only thing that I'd say to you, probably as a final question really, is why does Kevin Nash go in as Kevin Nash when Razor or Scott Hall goes in as Razor Ramon?
We can only imagine he was a lot more vocal than Scott Hall was at that point. I think Scott Hall had been through quite a long recovery journey at that point, and I think that was kind of the icing on the cake to a great story from a man, one of our favourite wrestlers. I mean, we've spoken about Razor and Scott Hall so many times, who was literally down and out. He was there as a cry for help, and the fact that he managed to come back from that is absolutely astounding. Not saying that, a lot of it was all mostly self-inflicted, so there is that side to it, but he's battled his demons, he's come back, and I think he was just quite happy to be in there, and he'd go in whatever you said he was going in as. It would have been nice for me, it should have been Scott Hall. Even though, I mean, Razor Ramon was probably more important to the WWF than Diesel ever was. With the innovator of that kind of match at WrestleMania 10 with Shawn. But I suppose at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's more important that they're in there. And I was just thankful we didn't have to hear that great big bloody horn from that truck when he came out to be inducted.
You didn't like that? I just always remember the Rock going, Big Daddy Cool, Diesel. That is one of the best things ever. That's
probably why they didn't do it.
That is wicked. That's a great promo. Overall, really good Hall of Fame. I think me and you both,
humble hall.
Yeah, I mean, but we both sort of questioned the Hall of Fame this year. We weren't sure about it, but I think it definitely redeemed itself. It was great.
That's probably why we thoroughly enjoyed it, because we had such low expectations. Aren't we miserable?
Yeah, but we're happy because it's WrestleMania weekend, and tonight we've got the big one. Guys, get involved because we're kind of drawing to the close of this We Talk now, and we'll be speaking to you about WrestleMania 31 next week on the show. And wow, it's going to be absolutely awesome. A few things just to quickly let you guys know. Saturday night main event, the final of the championship tournament went up last night. It's getting a really good reception, and did your man win the tournament? That's what I want to hear from you guys. Get involved in the comments box below. A link in the description to Saturday night main event will be there, so I really want to hear what you guys thought of the show. Yes, it's just paving the way for Universe Mode. And as well, obviously, follow us on Twitter at Delzinski and at Weeds_World, because we're both going to be watching WrestleMania, so I'm sure we'll be happy to have a bit of a tweet up with you all tonight. Yes! Anything left to say, Weeds?
No, I am going to go off now and watch my annual rendition of Bobby the Brain Heenan's Hall of Fame speech. If you've never seen it, go and watch it. I think it's like 2005 or something like that. Watch Saturday night main event last night. Another brilliant episode. Lots of things I wasn't particularly expecting to see in it last night, but obviously with the news feed coming out from Mr. Cena on your Twitter earlier on in the week, very interesting to see what you did there. But yeah, check it out. I'm off actually also to go and get some supplies for tonight because I am running extremely low. I'm assuming you'll be sticking to your normal diet of beer and pizza.
Normal diet. What's yours then? What's your diet?
Oh, you know me. I'll be there at the carrot sticks, mate.
Bollocks. Absolute bollocks.
I will likely be joining you for beer and pizza.
I see. Good. I mean, yeah, that'd be great. Let us know in the comments box below what your secret stash is going to be tonight for WrestleMania 31. What are you getting in? What are the supplies you guys are going to get in? Yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome tonight, guys. And thank you again for another We Talk. We are signing out.
Hi, wrestling fans and gamers. Velvet Sky here, and I just want to say I've been hearing a rumor that Delzinski.com is the best place for video gaming and wrestling content. Now, if you're a wrestling fan and a hardcore gamer like myself, then I suggest you check out Delzinski.com. You will not be disappointed. Holler!